Hello and welcome to this final first look exploring session looking at the Fair Maid of the Exchange, a play attributed to Thomas Heywood, but who knows, it could be by all sorts of possible different hands. Let's not be too firm on that sort of thing at this particular time. We're two-thirds of the way through the play. We're going to do the final two acts as it's been edited for the version that we're looking at. I don't think the original text actually has any act divisions. We're around about running scene 10, but that also partly depends on how you want to break up the scenes. So we're heading towards the climax. We do have some ableism in the text. We do have a character who is only known by such helpful and pleasing sobriquets as Cripple and Crutch, and sometimes even Dog. It's all a little unfortunate, but you never know. We might get lucky. Might get given a name in the final third. I don't think he does. It's all a bit depressing. But apart from that, we're going to find out how the play functions as we get towards the latter stages. We had a few ups and downs. There are some loose ends flapping about in this play that have distracted us, but occasional scenes that have pleased us very much, and some interesting elements to discuss. And discussing them and also reading various parts today are reading Flower's wife and Moll is...
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Amisu, I'm an author based in the southeast of England.
Reading Philis, Berry and Wood is...
Hello, I'm Lynn Freitas. I'm a teacher. I'm based in the northwest of the United States.
Reading the Cripple, Fiddle and First and Second Sergeant is...
Aliki, Chapple. I act a bit, I translate a bit, and I live in northwestern England.
Reading Bowdler today is...
Hello, Dan, skating about Montpellier, France.
Reading Frank, Barnard and Officer is...
Briony, Sparrow, actor in someone else's garden.
And reading Ferdinand today is...
DiRoberto. I'm in Tucson.
And reading Flower and possibly stepping in to read Anthony as well is...
Alan, feet firmly on the floor in Suffolk.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions and maybe stepping in if I've got the doubling wrong. So, without further ado, we're going to dive into Act 4, Scene 1, or running Scene 10. We're at Master Flower's establishment. Enter Master Flower at one door, reading a letter from Ferdinand, at the other, Flower's wife, with a letter from Anthony.
The conceit is good. Ferdinand entreats a marriage with my daughter. Good, very good. But here's a gentleman of good carriage, a wise man, a rich man, a careful man, and therefore worthy of my daughter's love. It shall be so.
Marry, and shall, kind gentleman. My furtherance, sayest thou? Yes, Antony, assure thyself. For by thy motherly care that I bear to my daughter, it hath been a desire that long hath lodged within my careful breast, to match her with thy well-deserving self. And to this end have I sent for my daughter, and charged my servants that presently, upon her repair hither from her mistresses, that she enter this private walk, wherein with whom I will so work, that doubt it not, dear son, but she shall be thine.
I will make her a jointure of £100 by year. It's a very good conceit. Why? Because the worthy portion betters my conceit, which, being good in conceiving well of the gentleman's good parts, the proffered jointure adds to my conceit and betters it. Very good.
1,000 crowns for you to make the match? Pretty heart, how love can work. By God's blessed mother, I vow she shall be thine, if I have any interest in my daughter. But stay, whom have I espied my husband likewise reading of a letter, and in so good a humour? I'll lay my life, good gentleman, he hath also wrought with him for his good will, and for I long to know the truth thereof, my sudden purpose shall experience it. What's here, husband? A letter from Master Ferdinand to entreat a marriage with your daughter?
No nearest the like to you from Antony to that effect. This is no good conceit. She be mine, she shall be Ferdinand's.
If she respect her mother's favour, 'tis Antony shall be her love.
How, wife?
Even so, husband.
You will not cross my purpose, will you?
In this you shall not bridle me, I swear.
Is she not my daughter?
You teach me, husband, what your wife should say. I think her life is dearest unto me, though you forget the long extremity and pains which I endured, when forth this womb with much ado she did enjoy the life she now doth breathe. And shall I now suffer her destruction?
Yea, but conceit me, wife.
A fig for your conceits. In this I know there can be none. Say he be his father's eldest son, and a merchant of good wealth. Yet, my dear Antony's as rich as he. What though his portion was but small at first, his industry hath now increased his talent. And he that knoweth the getting of a penny will fear to spend. She shall have him, if any.
By the merry God, wife, you vex me.
'Tis your own impatience you may choose.
I will not wed my daughter to that Antony.
By this,
Hold, wife, hold. I advise thee swear not. For by him that made me, first I vow, she shall not touch the bed of Antony.
and may I never live, so God me help, if ever she be wed to Ferdinand.
Devil's in this woman. How she thwarts me still.
Fret on, good husband, I will have my will.
But conceit me, wife. Suppose we should consent our daughter should wed either of them both, and she dislike the match. Was that a good conceit?
All's one for that. I know my daughter's mind. If I but say the word.
I would be loath to wed her against her will. Content thee, wife, we'll hear her resolution, and as I find her to our own content, to either of them she shall have my consent.
Why, now old Flower speaketh like himself.
Agreed, and faith, wife, 'tis a good conceit.
Enter Philis.
See where my daughter comes. Welcome, girl. How doth your mistress, Philis? God bless thee, Philis. Rise.
God have the glory, in perfect health she is.
'Tis good. I'm glad she doth so well. But list, my daughter, I have golden news to impart unto thee. A golden golding wench must be thy husband. Is not a good conceit?
Father, I understand you not.
Then, my girl, thy conceit is very shallow. Master Ferdinand Golding is in love with thee.
No, daughter, 'tis thine Anthony.
Ferdinand is rich, for he hath store of gold.
Anthony is rich, yet is he not so old.
Ferdinand is virtuous, full of modesty.
Anthony's more gracious, if more may be.
Ferdinand's wise. Being wise, who would not love him?
Anthony more wise, then girl desired to prove him.
In Ferdinand is all the beauty that may be.
He is deceived, 'tis in thine Anthony.
Dear parents, you confound me with your words. I pray, what mean these hot persuasions?
Thy good, my daughter,
If but ruled by me,
but for thy ill fare.
if she tend to thee.
The truth is this, that each of us has ta'en a solemn vow that thou, my loving daughter, shalt wed with one of these two gentlemen, but yet refer the choice unto thyself. One thou shalt love Ferdinand, if me.
If love thy mother, love thine Antony.
In these extremes, what shall become of me? I pray you, give me respite to consider how to digest these impositions. You have imposed a business of such weight. Pray God your daughter may discharge herself.
Think on, my girl. We will withdraw a while.
They walk aside.
A little respite fits my resolution. Those gentles sue too late. There is another of better worth, though not of half their wealth, and though deformed, his virtue mends that miss. What though not rich, his wit doth better gold, and my estate shall add unto his wants. I am resolved. Good father and good mother, Philis doth choose a cripple, and none other. Yet I must dissemble.
Oh, now, my soul's best hope, tell me, my girl, shall Ferdinand be he?
I pray, a word in private?
Marry, with all my heart.
In all the duty that a child can show, the love that a father can, it doth owe, I yield myself to be at your command, and vow to wed no man but Ferdinand. But if you please, at your departure hence, you may enforce dislike to cloud your brow, to avoid my mother's anger and suspicion.
You've all got a very good conceit. Hence, baggage, out of my sight. Come not within my doors. Thou hadst been better run millions of miles barefooted than thus by your coy disdain to have deluded me. For mine own flesh and blood, the mirror of wit. Now will I hence, and with all the speed I may, send for my son. I'll have it done this day.
Exit Flower.
What? Is he gone, and in so hot a chase? Well, let him go. I need not question why. For well I wot, his suit is cold, must die. Daughter, I gather by thy pleasant smiles, thy mother hath more interest in thy love than discontented Flower, thy aged father.
Mother, you have. For when I well consider a mother's care unto her dear-bought child, how tenderly you nursed and brought me up, I could not be so much unnatural as to refuse the love that you proffer me, especially being my chiefest good. Therefore, when married, I intend to be, my loyal husband shall be Antony.
Live ever then, my dear, dear daughter Philis. Let me embrace thee in a mother's arms. Thus, and thus I'll ever hug my daughter. Him hence thou sendest with frowns, me hence with laughter. Come, Philis, let us in.
Exit Flower's wife.
Forsooth, I'll follow you. Am not I a good child, think you, to play with both hands thus against my parents? Well, 'tis but a trick of youth. Say what you will, I'll love the cripple and will hate them still.
Exit Philis. Well, there's a nicely functional family. So much to talk about there. Aliki.
Oh, there is just so much to talk about. I mean, just that whole little scene has everything about, the battle of the sexes and gendered rights and Phyllis being so clever. I don't think they are dysfunctional, by the way. I mean, sure, she lies to them, but think about how many plays we've seen in which this goes worse. This goes, yeah. I will kill you. This goes, kill yourself, not, Yeah. Great. So much fun. And the two parallel letter readings and the two cross purposes she gives her parents. Oh, so much fun to work with this. This would be really nice in a standalone bit of working as a scene.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't read the stage direction, that they snatch each other's letters mid-scene. I apologise for that. I didn't realise it was embedded, and I didn't realise it was there. But yeah, and there's an interesting question actually about how some of that dialogue that they're doing at that beginning, whether some of that maybe even overlaps, and that might be played around with in rehearsal. Kyle, I think.
I agree. I just love Phyllis. She's so she's in control of everything already. She has such confidence too about it. Really nice.
I just the both parents going, well, you should marry him. You should marry him. You should marry him. You should marry him. There will be no love between us evermore if you choose them. Choose the other side. Just yes, it's really nicely played. Really nicely played. Other thoughts, Alan?
Yeah, I mean that section where you got the two characters doing alternating lines of couplets, I felt worked really well on paper. Unfortunately, we managed without lags and delays, which sometimes mess those up when we're trying something like that in these sessions.
Yeah, and it did flow very nicely. And yeah. Other thoughts? Otherwise, we'll move on. Elizabeth.
I just wanted to second what Kyle said. I love Phyllis's confidence. She doesn't seem to be perturbed at all by this very, very iffy situation. She just seems to know exactly what she's going to do. And I thought that adds to the comedy business of the scene, that Philis is so confident.
Yeah, you get the impression that possibly she's played this trick on her parents before. That she knows exactly how to play them. Okay, let's go into the next scene, Act 14, 2, running scene 11. We're back with the exchange. Enter Cripple, and to him Frank.
Mirror of kindness, extremity's best friend, while I breathe sweet blood, I am thine. Entreat me, nay, command thy Francis heart, thou that wilt not suffer my ensuing smart.
Sweet Signor, my advice in the reservation of those letters, which I will have you hide from eye of day, never to fear the warmth of Phoebus' beams, till myself's care, most careful of your weal, summon those lines unto the bar of joy.
I will not err, dear friend, in this command.
So much for that. Now, listen further, Frank. Not yet 2 hours' expiration have taken final end, since beauty's pride and nature's better part of workmanship, beauteous Philis, was with me consorted, where she, mongst other pleasing conference, burst into terms of sweet affection, and said, ere long she would converse with me in private at my shop, whose wounded soul, struck with love's golden arrow, lives in dread till she do hear the sentence of my love, or be condemned by judgment of fell hate. Now, since that gracious opportunity thus smiles on me, I will resign the same to you, my friend, knowing my unworthy self too foul for such a beauty, and too base to match in brightness with that sacred comet that shines like Phoebus in London's element, from whence inferior stars derive their light. Wherefore I will immediately you take my crooked habit, and in that disguise court her, yea, win her, for she will be won. This will I do to pleasure you, my friend.
For which my love to thee shall never end.
About it then. Assume this shape of mine, take what I have, for all I have is thine.
And he dresses Frank in his habit.
Supply my place, to gain thy heart's desire, so may you quench 2 hearts that burn like fire. She's kind to me, be she as kind to you. What admiration then there will then ensue. Frank, I will leave thee. Now be thou fortunate that we with joy your loves may consummate. Farewell. Farewell. When I return again, I hope to find thee in a pleasing vein.
And exit Cripple.
Farewell, dear friend, was ever known a finer policy. Now, brothers, have amongst you for a third part, nay, for the whole, or by my soul, I'll lose all. What, though my father did bequeath his lands to you, my elder brethren, the movables I sue for were none of his, and you shall run through fire before you touch one part of my desire. Am I not like myself in this disguise, crooked in shape and crooked in my thoughts? Then am I a cripple right. Come, wench, away. Thy absence breeds a terror to my stay.
Enter Philis.
Yonder she comes. Now frame thy hands to draw. A worser workman never any saw.
And she sits in the cripple's shop working.
Yea, yonder sits the wonder of mine eye. I have not been the first whom destiny has thwarted thus. Imperious love, either withdraw the shaft that wounds my heart, or grant me patience to endure my smart. Remorseless love, had any but thyself been privy to my direful passion, how I consume and waste myself in love, they would have been, yea, much more pitiful. But all avails not. Demanding of my work shall be a means to have some conference. Good morrow to you. Is my handkerchief done?
Yes, Mistress Flower, it is finished.
How sweetly tunes the accent of his voice. Oh, do not blame me, dearest love alive, though I thus dote in my affection. I toil, I labor, and I fain would thrive, and thrive I may, if thou wouldst give direction. Thou art the star whereby my course is led. Be gracious then, bright sun, or I am dead.
Fair Mistress Philis, such wanton toys as these are for young novices that will soon be pleased. The careful thoughts that hammer in my brain bid me abandon wanton love. 'Tis vain.
For me it is.
Is my ungarnished, dark, and obscure cell a mansion fit for all commanding love? No. If thou wilt sport with love, and dally with that wanton amorous boy, hie thee unto the odoriferous groves.
There is no grove more pleasant unto me than to be still in thy society.
There, of the choicest fragrant flowers that grow, thou mayest devise sweet roseate coronets, and with the nymphs that haunt the silver streams, learn to entice the affable young wag. There shalt thou find him wandering up and down, till some fair saint impale him with a crown. Begone, I say, and do not trouble me, for, to be short, I cannot fancy thee.
For to be short, you cannot fancy me. O cruel word, more hateful than pale death. O would to God it would conclude my breath.
Forbear, forbear. Admit that I should yield. Think you your father would applaud your choice?
Doubt not thereof, or if he do not, all's one. So you but grant to my affection.
I am too base.
My wealth shall raise thee up.
I am deformed.
Tut, I will bear with that.
Your friend's dislike brings all this out of frame.
By humble suit, I will redress the same.
Now to employ the virtue of my shape, fair mistress, if heretofore I have remorseless been, and not esteemed your undeserved love, whereby in the glass of your affection I see my great unkindness, forgive what's past, and here I proffer all the humble service your high-prized love doth merit at my hands, which I confess is more than I, unable, can gratify. Therefore, command my toil, my travail, and yea, my life, to pleasure you.
I take thee at thy word, proud of thy service, but yet no servant shall thou be of mine. I will serve thee, command, and I'll obey. This doth my soul more good, yea, 10 times more, than did thy heart's denial harm before. Let us embrace, like two united friends. Here love begins, and former hatred ends.
Enter Ferdinand and Antony.
Brother Anthony, what news from Venice? Are your ships returned? I had rather hear news from Philis. Oh, brother Frank, thy absence makes me burn in passion.
Sir, I had letters from my factors there some 3 days since. But the return of one poor letter, not yet answered, makes me stark mad. Plague on that porter! Damned may he be for thus deluding me.
Ferdinand sees Philis and turns back.
Now, brother, why retire you so?
Yonder is a friend of mine, acquaintance, with whom I'll gladly have some conference. I pray thee stay. I will return immediately.
And Ferdinand goes to Philis and courts her.
Of your acquaintance, is she so good, brother? Only with you acquainted and no other? Faith, I'll try that. Take heed, sir, what you do. If you begin to court, I needs must woo.
And Antony goes to her too.
Brother, have you done?
But 2 words more at most. You have not then received any such letter? A vengeance take the lazy messenger. Brother, if I live, I'll quittance thee for this.
Good words, dear brother. Threatened men live long.
You have done?
Yes.
Then, by your leave, brother, you had 1 word. I must have another.
And Anthony talks apart to Philis.
I know our business tends to one effect, that villain Frank. It mads my soul. I am so wronged by such a foolish boy.
That foolish boy may chance prove to be witty. What, the elder brothers fools? Oh, 'tis pity.
That villain porter hath deluded me. Confusion guerdon his base villainy.
What, are you cursing too? Then we catch no fish. Comes there any more? Here's 2 knights to a dish.
Well, since I have such opportunity, I'll trust no longer to uncertainty.
And Ferdinand courts her again.
That it so hard, brother? Well, woo apace. A while I'm content to give you place.
Well, to her both do the best you can. I fear young Frank will prove the happier man.
You have your answer. Trouble me no more.
Yet this is worse than my suspense before, for then I lived in hope. Now hope is fled.
What, malcontent is Ferdinand struck dead? Fortune be blithe and aid the second brother.
And Anthony talks to her apart.
Think you to have more favour than another? To her, a god's name, live not in suspense. While you two strive, I needs must get the wench.
I am resolved, and sir, you know my mind.
What, you repulsed too? Philis is too unkind.
Here sits my love, within whose lovely breast lives my content, and all my pleasures rest. And for further confirmation, which to approve, even in sight of both you here present, I give my hand, and with my hand, my heart, myself and all to him, and with this ring, I'll wed myself.
I take thy offering, and for the gift you gave to me, take this.
And Frank gives a ring.
And let us seal affection with a kiss.
Oh, sight intolerable.
A spectacle worse than death.
Now, gentlemen, please you draw near and listen to the cripple.
Gives them their letters, and they stamp and storm.
Know you that letter? Sir, what say you to this?
How came they to your hands?
Sirs, a porter e'en of late left them with me, to be delivered to this gentlewoman.
A plague upon this porter. Ere I meet him, my rapier's point with a death wound shall greet him.
Frank, thou art a villain. Thou shalt know it ere long, for proffering me such undeserved wrong.
And exit someone.
So vomit forth the rheum of all your spite. These threats of yours procure me more delight.
Now, gentle love, all that I have to say is to entreat you seek without delay my father's kind consent, for thou hast mine. And though he storm, yet I will be thine. Make trial then. 'Tis but thy labour lost, though he deny thee. It requires no cost.
I will assail with expedition.
God and good fortune go with thee. Farewell.
And exit Philis. We're going to pause there. I think, yes, both Ferdinand and Antony seem to have exited at that point. So, we've got a really interesting scene because so much of it is sort of in dumb show. We've got this constant pulling and wooing, inverted commas, otherwise known as pestering, of Philis. And it's an interesting question about how physical that is and how what's going on there and what the visual dynamic going on there is. Yeah. We've got this substitution of Frank. We've got, once again, an incredibly good disguise. I mean, I'm assuming there's some prosthetics because, they go in for a kiss. I don't know what's going on there. I mean, I would have thought at close quarters, whatever clothing he's put on is, this is once again the magical disguise of the earlier modern period. You're wearing a hat and suddenly no one can tell who you are. So yeah. And so he's basically trying to put her off so that he himself can get her. And of course Frank gets the ring, though of course Philis doesn't know who he is at this point. But it's interesting to see where this goes and how it all sort of flies together. But certainly Ferdinand and Antony have been given their marching orders here quite clearly. Lynn?
Yeah, I'm a little concerned at this point. Are we going to be able to resolve this so that Philis still has agency? So that she's been tricked into making a public declaration of her betrothal to Frank when she thinks it's crutch. So yeah, are we going to be able to work it so she ends up choosing Frank instead of being tricked into marrying Frank?
Well, I mean, fingers crossed. I mean, the previous scene we did have discussion, where the parents did say, we'll ask Philis what she wants, and literally they were discussing consent. So hopefully that is a running theme in the play. But, it's the early modern. Who knows? Aliki.
Yeah, I mean, an exchange of rings. Exchange of rings is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, a declaration in front of witnesses that you're betrothed is quite binding. So. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a big moment. It's obviously much more for then than we would pick up now. But yeah, it's pretty big. Other thoughts? I say so much of the scene is involving dialogue that's happening, but you can't hear. There's a lot of rhubarbing going on. That's doing a lot of work there. It's like I can't be bothered to write more wooing dialogue for these guys. We'll just have them step up stage a bit. Elizabeth.
I thought this could be really funny. You know, the wooing, how the wooing happens between the brothers and Philis. If they're like pulling her to one side and like offering her flowers or offering her things, and then she's like, no. And then another one comes and he offers her something even nicer. And I just thought, okay, this could be really, really funny. This could be really nice comedy business.
Yes, because the tone of this generally has been quite light. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on under the surface where you can go, okay, well, some of this could be very, very dark. But generally, it's not taking itself very seriously in terms of the way the text's been flowing. And so, I mean, even the very beginning when you've got villainous people threatening all sorts of terrible assaults, etc., they're doing it in such pantomime moustache twirling-y style that it's very hard to take it very seriously. But yeah, lots of questions which perhaps will be resolved when we get closer to a conclusion. We have paused mid-scene, but we will continue in a moment. Kyle.
I was just kind of thinking about also the language around the cripple and that seems problematic. But it also reminds you. I think I'm anticipating that the parents will see that it's one of the brothers, and then also that he's not crippled. But that also it reminds me of those like plots where you have a poor person, or a beggar who's actually king kind of stuff going on, which seems like it could be problematic. But I love this so far, and I agree with Elizabeth that I think that would be so fun to see staged.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really gone into that much discourse about what this play is doing with this with Crutch and with that idea of disability, of whether he's worthy to be married. She's making these offers to him, but how does their relationship function? At least in her eyes, what is drawing her to him, as well as why does Crutch refuse? And there's all sorts of interesting questions there about how that plays. Some of which might function very well, and some of which might. I'm sort of making lots of notes about. Yeah, lots of issues there, which not necessarily insuperable, but not necessarily for me to comment. So other thoughts from the room at this stage. Okay, so we're still mid-scene. Frank is still on stage. Everybody else we think has exited. Frank, continue.
Well, I will go, but not in this disguise. Arm thee with policy, Frank. Frank must be wise. Now, would the substance of this borrowed shape were here in presence, and see where he comes.
Enter the cripple.
Poor in the well-framed limbs of nature, but rich in kindness beyond comparison. Welcome, dear friend, the kindest soul alive. Here I resign thy habit back again, whereby I prove the happiest man that breathes.
Hast thou then, sweet blood, been fortunate?
Hark, I will tell thee all.
And they talk apart. Enter Bowdler, Mollberry, and Rafe. Bowdler capers and sings. Have I actually given out a Rafe? I might have missed a Rafe. Faith, sir, methinks you of late you're very light.
As a feather, sweet rogue, as a feather, have I not good cause? Sweet Moll, hath she not cause the same? If I live, sweet wench, either by night or day, I will requite your kindness.
Now I will take my leave to put the same in practice. Exit Frank to check whether that's going to flag up anything on the YouTube as filters there. Exit Frank.
Good fortune wait on thee.
Moll, thou art mine by thine own consent. How sayest thou, Moll?
Yes, forsooth. Yes, forsooth.
Frank is still on, isn't he? God damn it.
Rafe, you sound quite like a bird.
Rafe, no, Frank exited. Oh, right. Oh, well, I'll continue reading it one time. So, yes, I'm witness, sir.
That is not sufficient, Moll. If thou art content, Moll, here's a rogue hard by, a friend of mine, whom I will acquaint with our loves, and he shall be partaker of the match.
Nay, sir, if you mean to have partners in the match, I hope Rafe can help serve your wife's turn as well as another, whate'er he be. How say you, mistress?
Heirs one to me, whom he pleases.
Come then, sweet Moll, we'll to the drawer, there to dispatch what I further intend.
And well remembered, husband.
Forward maiden by this late husband, before the clerk hath said amen.
He hath work of mine, I pray forget it not.
I will not, Moll. Now, you lame rogue, where's this maiden's work? My wife's work, you rascal. Quick, give it her.
Sweet signor, the sweet nymph's work is almost finished, but, sweet blood, you drive me into admiration with your latter words. Your sweet wife's work. I admire it.
Aye, ye halting rascal, my wife's work. She's my wife before God and Rafe. How sayest thou, Moll? Art thou now?
Yes, forsooth. And to confirm the same, here in this presence I plight my faith again, and speak again what erst before was said, that none but you shall have my maidenhead.
A good wench, Moll. I'faith, now will I to thy father for his good will. Cripple, see you remember what is past, for I will call thee in question for a witness if need require. Farewell, cur. Farewell, dog.
Exeunt Bowdler and Rafe.
Adieu, fond humorist, parenthesis of jests, whose humour like a needless cipher fills a room. But now, Mulberry, a word or two with you. Hast thou forgotten Bernard? Thy thoughts were bent on him.
On him, Cripple? For what? Was it for marriage?
It was for love, why not for marriage? Monstrous. Were I a maid, and should be so bewitched, I'd pull my eyes out that did lend me light, exclaim against my fortune, ban my star, and tear my heart, so yielding her consent to Bowdler's love, that froth of compliment.
Cripple, you lose your time with your fair tears to circumvent my heart. Bowdler, I love thee. Bernard I hate, and thou shalt never move me.
I will. Thou dost love Bernard, and I can prove it.
That I love Bernard? By heavens, I abhor him.
Thou lovest him. Once again, I say thou lovest him, for all thou hast borne Bowdler still in hand.
What? Wilt thou make me mad? I say I hate him.
I say thou lovest him. Have I not been at home and heard thee in thy chamber praise his person and say he is a proper little man, and pray that he would be a suitor to thee? Have I not seen thee in the bay window to sit cross-armed, take counsel of thy glass, and prune thyself to please young Bernard's eye, sometimes curling thy hair, then practising smiles, sometimes rubbing thy filthy butter teeth, then pull the hairs from off thy beetle brows, painting the veins upon thy breasts with blue, 100 other tricks I saw thee use, and all for Bernard.
For Bernard? 'Twas for Bowdler.
I say for Bernard. Nay, more. Thou know'st I lay one night at home, and in thy sleep I heard thee call on Bernard 20 times over.
Will you be sworn I did?
Aye, I will swear it. And art thou not ashamed to be thus changed, to leave the love of a kind gentleman to dote on Bowdler? Fie, reclaim thyself. Embrace thy Bernard, take him for thy husband, and save his credit, who is else undone by thy hard father's hateful cruelty.
Cripple, if thou canst prove that ever I did fancy Bernard, I will love him still.
Why, I'll be sworn thou didst.
And that I doted on him in my sleep?
I will be sworn I could not sleep all night. In the next room thou didst so rave on him.
I cannot tell. I may be well deceived. I think I might affect him in my sleep, and yet not know it. Let me look on him. In faith, he is a pretty handsome fellow. 'Tis pity he should waste himself in prison. Hey-ho!
What's the matter, wench?
Cripple, I will love him.
Wilt thou, in faith?
In faith, I will.
And enter 2 sergeants at mace. I was just briefly going to change the casting. I'll ask Dan to read the sergeant for this particular little bit of scene.
Give me thy hand. A bargain. 'Tis enough.
But how shall he know I love him?
Why, thus. I will entreat the sergeants to go with him along unto thy father. And by the way, I'll send young Bowdler from us, and then acquaint my Bernard with thy love. He shall accept it, and avouch the same unto thy father. Wench, do thou the like, and then I hope his bonds are cancelled.
Ooh, Bernard randomly speaking. I don't know who's speaking at that point. Dan, take that line, see if it works.
Cripple, shall we have your company?
My friends, hold here. There's money for your pains. Walk with your prisoner but to Master Berry, and ye shall either find sufficient bail, or else discharge the debt, or, I assure you, will be your aid to guard him safe to prison.
Well, we are willing, sir. We are content to show the gentleman any kind of favor.
Along then, hark, Master Bowdler.
And exeunt, Moll. Oh, it's a question, but Bernard is very odd. Cripple, first sergeant, second sergeant. Couple of interesting odd textual issues there. Okay, so we've got this very odd little scene here of Moll coming on and publicly professing her love for someone, again in front of two witnesses. Admittedly, one of them's only Rafe, and then somehow is persuaded that actually she loves Bernard instead. This is a really weird scene. I don't know how much of this was properly prefigured earlier, or it was prefigured and we just didn't notice. I mean, I've never really got a handle on Moll as to what's actually going on inside her head. I think Stephen, who's just been able to join the room, was reading Moll the other day, and I don't know if Stephen had more of a handle on Moll than anyone else. I don't know if anyone else had a handle on Moll of where this has all been going. I'll go to Alan.
Yeah, I think actually in the first time we encountered Moll, which was with Bernard and Bowdler, she was basically flirting with both of them.
Yeah, I have to say I've never really got a sense of really where that was potentially going. Stephen, do you have any? I think you were Moll in the first session. Welcome to the room.
No, I mean, my memory is just that she was involved in that sort of. We knew where she was in the status game, which was higher status. That's my only recollection of her, really. But it wouldn't be unusual, would it, for a woman's status to radically change?
Because I recall her basically giving Bowdler his marching orders last time. The turnaround of him suddenly, we're in love and we're getting married. I'm sort of going, what happened between then and now? Unless I missed something, and I don't know if I did.
Maybe somebody else wrote the act.
Yeah, well, that's sort of what I'm thinking. There are some really weird inconsistencies in this text. That there's something missing, or just inconsistent, or something added, or something went wrong somewhere. Aliki.
There's also the interesting irony of Crutch here saying, oh, well, if you're in love with X, you should go for X and never marry somebody else. Whereas he's just helped to trick Philis into professing her love to the wrong man when she loves him. I mean, I hope that's going to be explored a bit, but it's a weird thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's also the weird way he sort of persuades her. I mean, is any of this true? Is he just making it up? Oh, yeah, you talk about him in your sleep. I happen to be outside your window one day. You know, it's a very narrow, it's a very thin partition wall. And I can hear what you say in your sleep. What? Elizabeth.
I loved the transition between I hate him to I hate him, I love him. Oh, I do love him. I think that was really funny. I don't think that's meant to be taken seriously at all. I think there's a sense, and also I like the fact that the crippled character Crutch has that kind of power, who can kind of say like, oh, actually you do love him. Here are all the reasons why. And then Moll just kind of changes her mind.
I think there is a sense of structurally the scene is doing something really quite fun. It's just not necessarily it's been set up properly, and that's sort of the issue. Aliki, then Stephen.
He shows her a picture which suggests she's pretty shallow. Also, like, how does he have an engraving or whatever it is? Oh, he draws, doesn't he? He does something like that with his hands. Anyway, but it reminded me of when I was about 13 and my friend was in love with a member of a boy band. I won't say which because I'm far too embarrassed. And she showed us she took all of us and she showed us pictures of each of them and said, "You're all going to be in love with one of them as well." Which one? You know, it's like that level. 13-year-old girl has no idea what any of this actually means, level romance.
Well, yeah, but we also had that sort of level of thinking earlier when they were talking about that you don't fancy him or whatever the line was, when they used the word fancy in a way that has shifted over time in terms of its stress of meaning. And it sort of came across as quite teenagery as well. And I sort of found that weirdly endearing, though, of course, not the author's intent. Stephen?
Just a thought, really, that if we were doing this at the Globe or somewhere, then that change or those kinds of changes would be signalled by music, as they are in the movies. And it's quite a musically aware play, isn't it? There's lots and lots of music cues in it, and it does make you wonder a little bit whether incidental music featured at all. I'm not sure what the evidence is on that, but that's how we do it now, isn't it? That we would look that you'd need musicians anyway, or you'd need music cues anyway. So we'd establish a theme, and rather like one of those plays where Cupid sort of just sticks a dart in somebody, you know, that's how you do that. So maybe if it's light, if you want to keep it light, music would be the answer.
Well, especially as, I'm starting to think that we should rename Crutch, actually, in terms of finding my name. At the moment, Cupid is working reasonably well. It seems that seems to be the character's function is actually as a matchmaker of, a love doctor kind of figure. Kyle, then Briony.
It was interesting to me that Philis loves him because he kind of is like her in the way he's orchestrating everything.
Briony.
Yeah, I'm at the top of the scene, and we've had it a few times in the play already. There was a moment when I can't remember who I was reading at the time. It must have been Frank. Says about the cripple. Oh, I hope I see him soon. Oh, look, here he is. And we've had that a few times in this play, and I just find that really charming the way they do that.
Yes, and that may be literally a practical cueing thing of just simply, if I say their name, then that they will remember to come on stage.
Unless they're Bernard.
So, okay, we will move on into the final unit of action, potentially. I don't know if this breaks into any additional units. Otherwise, it's just one very, very long scene, Act 5, Scene 1, as it's labelled, or running Scene 12, which is confusing me because I thought there was supposed to be 13, but never mind. I may have missed one. Anyway, enter Flower's wife, Master Berry, and Fiddle.
Welcome, good Master Berry. Is your stomach up, sir? It's a good conceit, your faith.
It is indeed, sir.
What, Fiddle?
If his stomach be up, to go to dinner.
Fiddle, bid Master Berry welcome.
What else, master, with the best belly in my heart, the sweetest strain in my music, and the worst entertainment that may be, Fiddle, bid your worship, destum.
Thanks, Fiddle. And Master Flower, I am much beholding to your courtesy.
Fiddle, I wonder that he stayed so long. Thou toldest me Antony would follow thee.
Aye, and he'll be here, I warrant you.
Tell you, sir, it is a rare conceit. My wife would have her marry Antony, the younger brother, but against her mind, I will contract her unto Ferdinand, and I've sent for you and other friends to witness it. 'Tis a good conceit.
Fiddle, are all things ordered well within?
All's well, but there wants some saffron to colour the custards withal.
Here, take my keys. Bid Susan take enough.
Fiddle, are all our guests come yet?
Aye, sir, and here comes one more than you looked for.
Exit Fiddle, enter Frank.
God save you, Master Flower. As much to you, Master Berry.
Welcome, Master Golding. You're very welcome, sir.
My brother Ferdinand commends him to you, and here's a letter to you from himself.
Letter, sir? It's a good conceit. I'll read it straight.
Frank gives another letter to Flower's wife.
Master Flower, I'm beholding to you for your kindness and your furtherance in my love suit, but my mind is changed, and I will not marry your daughter. And so farewell. This is no good conceit. What, Ferdinand, delude old Flower, make me deceive my friends, make my wife laugh and triumph in her will? What think you, Fiddle?
Why, sir, I think it is no good conceit.
Thou sayest true, Fiddle. It's a bad conceit. But here you, sir.
And Flower talks to Frank apart.
I understand by Fiddle your forwardness in my suit to your daughter, but nevertheless I am determined to draw back and commit your daughter to her best fortunes and yourself to God. Farewell. Why, this is like my husband's bad conceit. Have you overreached me, Flower, you crafty fox? This is your doing, but for all your slight, I'll cross you if my purpose hit all right.
Tut, tell not me, sir, for my credit and reputation is as it is, and there's an end. If I shall have her, why so?
Sir, the conceit is doubtful. Give me leave but to consider it by myself.
With all my heart.
Master Golding, a word I pray, sir. You know my daughter Philis, do you not?
Mistress, I do.
She's a star, I tell you.
She is no less indeed.
I tell you, sir, upon the sudden now, there came an odd conceit into my head. Are you a bachelor?
I am indeed.
And are you not promised?
Not yet, believe me.
Master Golding?
Well, do you hear, sir? If you will be pleased to wed my daughter Philis, you shall have her.
To wed your daughter? Why, she loves me not.
All one's for that. She will be ruled by me. Disdain her not because I proffer her. I tell you, sir, merchants of great account have sought her love, and gentlemen of worth have humbly sued to me in that behalf. To say the truth, I promised her to one, but I am crossed and thwarted by my husband, who means to marry her unto another. Now, sir, to cry but quittance for his guile, I offer her to you. If you accept her, I'll make her dowry richer by a pair of £100 than else it would have been.
Why, this is excellent, past all compare. Sued to have her, gentle Mistress Flower. Let me consider of it.
Nay, nay, defer no time, if you will have her. I'll search my coffers for another 100.
Say I should yield. Your husband will withstand it.
I'll have it closely done, without his knowledge. Is it a match?
Well, well, I am content.
Why then, old Flower, I'll cross your close intent.
It shall be so, and 'tis a good conceit. It shall be so, if but to cross my wife. Hark, Master Golding, the conceit doth like me. You love my daughter, so methought you said. You said, moreover, that she loves you well. This love on both sides is a good conceit. But are you sure, sir, that my daughter loves you?
For proof thereof, show her this ring.
A ring of hers. 'Tis well.
Aye, but conceit me. If I had wooed her in my proper shape, I do believe she never would have liked me. Therefore, since I shall have her, give me leave to come and court her in my borrowed shape.
With all my heart, and 'tis a good conceit. And here's my hand. Son Golding, thou shalt have her.
Then, Father Flower, I rest upon your promise. I'll leave you for a while till I put on my counterfeited shape and then return.
Exit Frank.
Welcome, good son. 'Tis well by this conceit. My wife shall be prevented of her will. I would not for the half of all my wealth my crossword wife encompassed her intent. Now, wife,
Now, husband.
you still maintain the suit for Antony? You'll have your will, and I must break my word.
Jest on, old Flower. be cross and do thy worst. Work the best means thou canst. Yet while I live, I swear she never shall wear to Ferdinand.
What, shall she not?
No, that she shall not.
I say she shall.
If faith she shall not.
No.
No.
Well, wife, I'm vexed. By God's precious.
Oh, sir, be patient. Gentle Mistress Flower, cross not your husband. Let him have his will.
His will?
Hearest thou, wife, be quiet. Thou knowest my humour. Thus to be crossed, it is no good conceit.
A fig for your conceit. Yet, for because I know I shall prevent him of the match that he intends, henceforth I will dissemble. Well, Master Flower, because it shall be said, and for that kind Master Berry may report the humble loyalty I bear to you, such as a wife should do unto her husband, I am content to yield to your desires, protesting whiles I live, I never more will speak that Anthony may marry her.
Why, speakest thou from thy heart?
Husband, I do.
Dost thou indeed?
Indeed, forsooth, I do.
Then 'tis a good conceit. Aha! A seat is sometimes good to look aloft. Come hither, wife, because thou art so humble. I'll tell thee all. I have received a letter from Ferdinand, wherein he sends me word he will not marry with my daughter Philis, and therefore I was full determined to cross thy purpose, that his brother Frank should marry him, and so I still intend. What sayest thou, wife? Dost thou assent thereto?
That Frank should marry her, I have sworn he shall. And since this falls so right, I'll not disclose that I did mean so much, but now I will yield, that it may seem my true humility. Husband, because hereafter you may say, and think me loving, loyal, and submiss, I am content Frank shall have my consent.
Why, now thou showest thyself obedient, and thou dost please me with thy good conceit.
And the scene is about to get more complicated, so we'll just pause there and take in some of the actions that we've got here. So once again, we have a cross purposes situation going on between the two flowers. We have a cross purposes wedding. Goodness knows how they sent out the invitations. I mean, you know, how does the seating plan work if you don't know which? Never mind. Let's not worry too much about the logic there. And yeah, so we've got all that sort of stuff going on there. We've got the various sort of negotiations, and Frank presumably is standing there going, me? What, me? Really? Oh, well, I suppose so. And of course the way the flowers keep turning to the audience. Those asides should work really, really well. I mean, obviously we have that lingering elephant in the room of the question of what does Philis think about all of this, but let's burn that bridge when we get to it. Let's see. Let's see where that comes. Fiddle didn't exit at that point. Who exited? I don't think anyone exited at that point. That was a random thing. Anyway, thoughts on the room before we go forward. I can't have said it all, can I?
Yeah, I think we just want to know what happens.
Yes, well, this is true. Elizabeth?
I think it's the Thénardiers in Les Mis that Alan has mentioned once before. I hope I haven't crossed my characters, but I just love the flowers. I think they're hilarious. I think that they have really good comic timing. Their dialogue is really snappy. I love their asides and then their comebacks of like, oh yes, it'll all be fine. And then I was like, at least they're brothers. So with the seating plan for the wedding, at least the family will stay the same. And if not the friends.
That's true. Yeah, I'm sure that will look Aliki.
Lovely parallel too with the previous scene of the crossed letters and the two brothers. Just really nicely tying off that whole bit of comic business with two letters and stuff.
Yes. We know that the moment if the flowers enter holding a letter or anything like that, you know where the scene's going to go, and we can enjoy it. Okay. Let's find out where it goes, because we're going to go in a slightly different direction, because other plot lines will now crash the wedding, as it were. So enter Bernard Moll and 2 sergeants who will be rolled into one.
By your leave, Master Flower, I'm arrested at your suit.
And I am glad of it with all my heart. Hold, friends, here's somewhat more for you to drink. Away with him to prison.
Say, Master Berry, I have brought you bail.
What bail? Where is your bail? Here's none I know that will be thy bail. Away with him to prison.
Yes, I, forsooth, father, I'll be his bail, body for body. Think you I'll stay at home and see my husband carried to the jail?
How? Thy husband?
My husband, I assure you. Father, these sergeants both can witness it.
We saw them both contracted, man and wife, and therefore thought it fit to give you knowledge before we carried him unto the prison.
But I'll undo this contract on my blessing, daughter. Come from him. He's a reprobate.
He is my husband.
But thou shalt not have him.
Faith, but I will. Bernard, speak for thyself.
Why, Master Berry, 'tis well known to you I'm a gentleman, though by misfortune my ventures in the world have somewhat failed me. Say that my wealth disables my desert. The difference of our blood supplies that want. What though my lands be mortgaged, if you please, the dowry you intend to give to your daughter may well redeem them. You perhaps imagine I will be blind, but I intend it not. What shall I say if you will give consent as yon redeem my lands? So I my time ill spent mean to redeem with frugal industry. I'll be your counsel's pupil and submit my follies to your will, mine to your wit.
What think you, Master Flower?
Faith, Master Berry, Bernard speaks well and with a good conceit.
Dost thou love him, Moll?
Yes, sir, and here protest. Of all in London, I love Bernard best.
Then, Master Berry, follow my conceit. Cancel his bond and let him have your daughter.
Well, Bernard, since I see my daughter loves thee, and for I hope thou wilt be kind and loving, regard thy state, and turn an honest man, here, take my daughter. I'll give thee in thy bond, redeem thy lands, and if thou please me well, thou shalt not want. All that I have is thine.
I am love-bound to her, to you in duty. You conquer me with kindness, she with beauty.
Then, Master Berry, I think we may depart.
Aye, when you please. You see the matter ended, the debt's discharged, and I can ask no more.
Why, then we take our leaves.
Exit sergeants.
Now, wife, if young Frank Golding will come back, to some I wish it were a good conceit.
Enter Philis.
Why, now, Philis, sad? Come, tell me, wench, art thou resolved yet for to have thy husband?
A golden golding, 'tis a good conceit. That golden golding is but loathsome dross, nor is it gold that I so much esteem. Dust in the richest treasure that we have, nor is the beauty of the fairest one of higher price or value unto me than is a lump of poor deformity. Father, you know my mind, and what I said, which if you grant not, I will rest a maid.
Enter Fiddle.
Fair Maid? That is no good conceit.
Master! Where's my master? Here's one would couple a brace of words with you.
With me, sir?
Oh, no, sir, with my young mistress.
What is he, knave?
A crooked knave, sir. 'Tis the cripple.
What would he have? He hath no good conceit. 'Tis he that hath bewitched my daughter's heart. Here's a knave. Go, send him packing hence.
As you respect the welfare of your child, dear father, let me speak with him.
Speak with him? No, it's no good conceit. I know he comes to run away with thee.
Run away with her? Well, she may carry him, but if he run away with her, I'll never trust Crutch more.
No, sir, it's true, Fiddle. 'Tis a good conceit. Go, call him in.
Exit Fiddle.
Frank Golding, it is he, in the lame knave's disguise. A Good conceit.
And having reminded the audience of the conceit, enter Frank in disguise.
Now, sir, what's the news with you? You've come to speak with my daughter?
Yea, sir, about a little work I have of hers.
What work, you knave? No, there has some conceit to rob me of my daughter. But away, I like not that conceit. Out of me doors.
Unhappy Philis and unfortunate.
Sir, I'm content. I'll not move your patience.
Life of my body, if thou go, though not alive, take me hence dead with woe.
And Philis swoons.
In troth, sir, you are to blame.
What? Is she dead? 'Tis no good conceit. Speak to me, Philis. Oh, unhappy time. Sweet girl, dear daughter, oh, my only joy. Speak to thy father, wench, in some conceit. What? Not a word?
Now may you see what fell impatience begets upon such tender plants as these.
Now may we see the folly of old age, governed by spleen and overweening rage.
Speak to me, daughter. Thou shalt have, what not? Covetest thou gold? Thou shalt not want for crowns, thou shalt have all. Oh, was my fury author of thy trance? Did I deny thy love's access to thee? Speak but one word, and thou shalt be his wife. By heaven, thou shalt.
I take you at your word. It is no pain to die for love and then revive again.
Now, Master Flower, how like you this conceit? Hath she not overreached you?
My word is past, and yet, for all my rage, I rather choose to fail in my conceit, and wed thee, Philis, to thy own content. Here, take my daughter, Cripple, love her well, be kind to her, and I'll be kind to thee. Thou art but poor. Well, I will make thee rich, and so God bless you with a good conceit.
I thank you. When I leave to love my wife, heaven hasten death and take away my life.
'Tis well done, Frank. I applaud thy wit. And now I know I fail not in conceit.
Enter the Cripple, Ferdinand, Anthony, and Bowdler.
Gentlemen, sweet bloods, or brethren of familiarity, I would speak with Philis. Shall I have audience?
Help me, dear father, oh help me, gentlemen. This is some spirit. Drive him from my sight.
Were he the devil, thou shalt not budge a foot.
Zounds, 2 cripples, 2 dogs, 2 curs. 'Tis wonderful.
Fear not, dear heart.
Hence, foul deformity, nor thou nor he shall my companion be. If Cripple's dead and living seems to haunt, neither of either. Therefore I say avaunt. Help me, father.
Dear heart, revoke these words. Here are no spirits nor deformities. I am a counterfeit cripple, now no more, but young Frank Golding, as I was before. Amaze not, love, nor seem not discontent, for thee nor him shall ever this repent.
Master Flower, I come to claim your promise.
I come for yours, your daughter, I do mean.
My promise? Why, sir, you refused my promise and sent me word so in your letter.
And so did you to me, and now 'tis past. Your brother Frank hath both our free consents.
Sir, I wrote no letter.
By heaven, nor I.
But I did for you both. I was your scribe, the whilst you went to see your house afire, and you, as I remember, I did send to see your sister drowned at London Bridge.
In faith, good brother, have you overreached us so?
So cunningly, but none of us could know.
For all this cunning, I will break the match.
And so will I.
Why, brothers, she's mine by her mother's gift.
Brother, you lie. You got her with a shift.
I was the first that loved her.
That's not so. 'Twas I.
Catch that catch can, then brothers both you lie.
Yea, but conceit me, gentlemen. What do you mean to spoil my daughter? You claim her, and I have given her your younger brother. This is no good conceit. Why, how now, Philis? Still drooping. Cheer thee, my girl. See, a company of gentlemen at strife for thy love. Look up, And in this fair assembly make thine own choice. Choose where thou wilt, and use thine own conceit.
But will my father then applaud my choice?
I will.
And will these worthy gentlemen be pleased, however my dislike or liking prove?
We will.
We will.
I must confess, you all have taken pains, and I can give but all for that pains taken. And all my all is but a little love. And of a little, who can make division? I would I knew what would content you all.
Thy love.
Thy life and love.
Thy life, thy love, thyself, and all for me. For if I want but one, I then want thee.
And then, if then I give what either of you crave, though not what you desire, will it suffice?
I wish but love.
And as a friend, you have it.
I life and love.
And as your friend, I vow to love you whilst I live, as I do now.
I ask but all, for I deserve no more.
And thou shalt have thy wish. Take all my store, my love, myself.
By heaven, I ask no more. Brothers, have done, and Dad, to end all strife, come, take her hand, and give her for my wife.
With all my heart, and 'tis a good conceit.
Gentlemen, patience is your fairest play.
Impatience pulls me hence. For this disdain, I'm resolved never to love again.
Exit Ferdinand.
Hey, brother Ferdinand, I'll follow thee. Farewell, old love. 'Tis full of treachery.
Exit Anthony.
By heavens, Frank, I do commend thy wit. Come, Moll, shall thou and I ask blessing too for company?
You and I, sir, alas, we are not playfellows, though we be turtles. I am provided.
Provided? Why? Am not I thy Menelaus? Menelaus.
Aye, sir, but this is my Paris. I am resolved, and what I do is by authority.
Is it even so? Is Helen stoned by Paris? Then thou in arms will Menelaus mourn till Troy be sacked and Helena return.
Exit Bowdler. Enter Master Wood and officers.
This is the man, officers. Attach him upon felony.
Master Flower, I arrest you upon felony, and charge you to obey.
Arrest me upon felony? At whose suit?
Sir, at mine. Where you had that diamond, where had you that diamond on your finger? It was stolen from me and many other jewels to the value of £100.
This is no good conceit. Hath Captain Racket bandied old Flower to such an extent? I hope my credit somewhat will assist me. Well, whither must I go?
Straight to the bench, where now the judges are, to give you speedy trial.
Words here are of little worth. Why, friends and all, go with me to my trial, and you shall see a good conceit now brought to win for me.
And exit. So, random callback to that scene at the beginning of the play that we're all saying that's not going to go anywhere, that none of these characters return, and yet I kind of like it for its utter randomness as a way of closing the play. It's this tiny scene at the beginning of the play where they did the jewellery thing, and then at the very end, that's just randomly, let's end it there. We don't want to end on people getting married. That'd be awful. Let's end with someone getting arraigned. Lynn.
Yeah, it wouldn't bother me if we had set up Flower as a character who kind of deserved his comeuppance. You know, if he was somebody who was deceitful or a jerk of some kind. But it's just like Flower's really not a bad guy, and now he's like his reputation is going to be ruined, and he has to pay for stolen goods that he didn't steal. Like, why is this bad thing happening to him?
I don't think anything. I think it'll be fine in the end. I don't feel it like he's threatened particularly. Kyle.
We've had so many of them end with marriage and trials with forgiveness. It almost feels like there's the forgiveness scene is missing, possibly.
Yes, well, we've got these various suitors who are given an answer at the end, and they all storm off in a huff. We get Frank saying that he managed to get his brothers out of the way by setting up a house fire and saying that their sisters drowned at London Bridge, none of which happened.
None of which we saw on
No.
stage.
So I think possibly we might be missing some pieces here, or they cut some pieces and didn't, and it's functioned as a play, but there are a few flapping bits still left in the manuscripts, or they didn't get properly cancelled and they ended up in the printing copy. Alan.
Or alternatively, the playwright just ran out of time and the deadline struck, and fine, well, that's what you got.
I mean, it sort of works. I mean, it's really interesting because actually what I like about this ending is it does mean we could substitute a different ending in so many different ways. Because they do give Philis the choice. Now, we might not necessarily like the choice. We might think that there's no rational reason why she makes that choice beyond expediency. But because we have essentially this setup of who are you going to choose, and then almost no dialogue afterwards, we could choose this any ending, actually, at this point. That's what I quite like about this. That actually this is a text, because it's slightly untidy, but it is also quite open. I think actually it's more adaptable to play with. I mean, I think there's a big question which we haven't been answering all week, is what does one do with the figure of Crutch? And I think some massaging there, some massive massaging could be done there. I mean, you could actually completely change the nature of his character. But then maybe that's actually not a good thing, and maybe actually we should be leaning into things, which is, I think, a big open discussion to be had further down the line. But it just feel like he's the local key cutter at the exchange, and he's a fixer for everybody. But he doesn't get a scene at the end. He turns up and says 2 lines at the end. I feel like he should have the epilogue. It feels like his role there isn't being fully acknowledged. Sorry, Aliki.
So you've talked quite a bit about how much physical stuff there is going on around this, and I think if we wanted to, we could have a lot of fun with him and Frank being really into each other. And what they've set up here is a 3-way marriage. They will never agree for her to marry the disabled key cutter at the exchange, but they might agree to her marrying Frank. Let's make that happen. And a secret kind of, physical plot line can carry that way.
Well, you see, the other thing I was thinking was at the very, very end that actually it's not Frank in disguise, it's actually the Cripple, and it's all a big con on him. And I think the play would actually accommodate that quite nicely with, as I say, just a few minor tweaks without changing that much in the way of dialogue. And so you could have almost any ending to this play, actually, and that I quite like because it gives us a shortcut round some of these issues. Briony.
You could even set it as like a choose your own ending and get the audience to cast their votes on the night.
Yes, Philis has a sufficient agency, but not enough character. Would you like to choose her decisions for her?
Yeah.
And it's the way that Bernard and Moll just arrive randomly at that point and just sort of crash into the conversation, and the way that and then they step out again, and the way Berry's sort of there, and he occasionally speaks and then steps out again, and he's only used. So there's an awful lot of people hanging around that I sort of wonder about what's going on there as well. But yeah. Other thoughts about this untidy ending?
Very untidy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get the impression that we're all sort of, having to, all these loose ends that keep flapping in my face. Briony.
But it's untidy in a chaotic, fun way. Some things, they're untidy because they're really not satisfying, or because they've missed a huge bit and it just doesn't seem. Whereas this, I feel like it's deliberate how random and hectic this is at the end, and I like it.
Yes, I mean it does seem that this as a text would function left largely unchanged. It just but people on the way out would be going, hang on, quite a lot. Stephen.
I was just thinking about Kyle's point about the sort of conventional ending things, and I was wondering about agency and Philis, and perhaps one of the things that is not quite as chaotic as it might seem is the idea, the old patriarchal order that has been quite visible. She gets tricked into, sort of promising herself, but then the father says, "Oh well, choose who you want anyway." And so that kind of order remains. That the older generation is no longer blocking. She forgives the trick that's been played upon her. She forgives her parents. So maybe that's where the forgiveness is. The family not quite being put back together again, but remaining kind of intact. And also, we get a sort of turbo agency bit at the end, as if to make up for the kind of slightly less fun stuff that's been happening through the play. I'm not sure it works like that, but maybe that's part of it. Maybe that bit isn't quite as random.
I mean, yeah, and it's just going back to the whole thing about Flower, getting arrested at the end, which does feel like the end of a Monty Python episode, doesn't it? It definitely think it's like a sketch from earlier in the show is here to arrest you, and we're not quite sure where to put the credits. But Flower's interesting because he has this verbal tick about conceits and good conceits and bad conceits, and it's this constant verbal tick that's supposed to presumably get funnier every time he says it, but in practice probably doesn't. And the way he functions, and it's the fact that he gets a wife halfway through the play as well. We didn't meet Flower's wife earlier, and I kind of wish we had, because that relationship is so good. And we only met Flower briefly in the first half. He was very peripheral for plot reasons, and if there is a slight issue with the first half, is that it doesn't quite reach fruition of all the plot lines quickly enough, whereas the second half feels very accomplished in the sense of stuff moving and the scenes being very effective and stuff going on nicely. I don't know, Briony might be being rained on.
The perils of being outside.
I was going to say, you were struggling with that whole thing of, oh no, the sun's come out, isn't it lovely? Oh, can I read my screen? And now it looks like it's gone the other way. Other thoughts in the room before I go into final thoughts? And we dance around a little bit more. Okay, so yeah, we've gone through the text. I think it's fair to say the text has some lovely bits. It has some big issues. And some other just more minor structural issues. But I see those structural issues as actually opportunities to fix the big questions about what one does with this. Does one own the character of known only as Cripple or Crutch or occasionally Dog in that way, or does one fundamentally alter what that character is doing? What do we do with the sort of agency questions that we have with some of the female characters and that ending with Philis, or do we just play it as it is and just forewarn the audience for what this thing is doing and say this is of its time, or a combination of all of the above? I've sort of really enjoyed it, but I'm not sure what to do with it. So it's and maybe I feel bad for that. I don't know. Anyway, final thoughts. Kyle, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I love this play, and I liked the idea that there's some way in which you can kind of celebrate the cripple, and your ending. I liked your alternative ending, and I really love Briony's let the audience choose the ending from a variety. I just think both of those things are amazing. That's what I'd like to see.
Every night a slightly different take. We could tweak that happily. Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you could almost do as a throwback to a 1960s television break. Do you take the money? Do you open the box? Felt very unsatisfactory to me the way it sort of didn't end. It just sort of collapsed in a bit of a heap. And given that the cripple had been a fairly key presence throughout, the fact that he then almost does this Sidney Carson act at the end and, effaces himself into the background just didn't feel right to me.
Yeah, it felt like he needed a speech to to say farewell. I mean, if we didn't have the arrest at the end and we just had him doing an epilogue, then it probably wouldn't feel that like it was it sort of faded away, because actually we have quite a dramatic moment with Philis's choice at the end. And maybe in tryouts that didn't work, and they tagged that bit on the end just to as a cheap laugh, because it was a better way to close the show. Sometimes the obvious ending is unsatisfactory. I don't know. I wasn't there. Stephen, any final thoughts?
No, I'm just musing on this idea of it as a game, really, to play as a game, So it kind of works as long as you accept the rules, which include things that we wouldn't accept nowadays. That would be the problem for me, I suppose, with doing it. I think there are better plays from the point of view of appealing to an audience who might not really want to play that game. And I like I'm just thinking about that, really, and the idea that all those loose ends are the kind of product of three writers frantically sort of going, okay, let's just not take that option. We've written Act 1, so we've got like 3 ways we can go. Let's just forget that one. Act 2 will go this way. So I like that from the point of view of thinking about a process, I suppose. But I don't really have anything original to add.
That's right. We don't have to be original every time. Feel no pressure. Elizabeth, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with Kyle. I really loved this. I was just like, it's one of those plays that's like, go hard or go home. Make it as big as possible. Make the characters as like, I thought they should just put budget on this. The costuming. We need Sacha Baron Cohen as like Flower. We need some musical elements, like Steve was saying, some dance numbers. I thought this was hilarious. I really enjoyed it. I think the ending was kind of part of the joke. Was like, and now let's take Flower off to be arraigned, and it's like, yeah, ha 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 ha. I thought the ending was part of the joke.
I wonder if it was setting up a sequel. It felt to me like, and find out what happens to Flower in part 2 of The Fair Maid of the Exchange. Sequelitis. Lynn, any final thoughts?
Yeah. I think I would go against the grain here and probably try to rationalize and tidy up what I find unsatisfactory. I really find Moll's fickleness troubling and not fun. It really subtracts from the fun for me. It was kind of fun to find out that she actually requited Bowdler's love, although she was pretending not to, and I wanted to see them get together. And then she just sort of, with a little persuasion from Crutch, just like, oh, all right, I love him. And I just found it really troubling. So yeah, I think my instinct would be to try to actually tidy up the untidiness and play down some of the problematic language about Crutch. Rename him. I've been thinking about Jacob because Jacob wrestled with the angel and his hip was out of joint. So people who got that reference would be like, why Jacob? But because he wrestled with the angel and his hip was out of joint. And it scans the same. So I would just like replace that throughout, because I was just so intrigued by the way that character was valorized, and that character was central, and how Philis knew what she wanted, and had all this determination and agency, and I felt let down by the end. So my tendency would be to get in there and adapt it so it ended more like I wanted it to.
Yeah, I just think Cripple arrives at the end and it's not Frank, and Frank stumbles out of a cupboard at the end of the play, just going, what the hell happened? I think that would be a better ending, and again, very easily done with the dialogue that actually we've got in play. We wouldn't almost need to write anything additional to it to mess with that. And yeah, there's some really interesting questions actually about who any of these characters are. Actually, I mean, it's weird that some of these characters, like Frank, like I wasn't going to go. I was thinking more alternative name of Hugh. I was thinking of calling him Hugh because he's like Cupid in the play. That's sort of my mind on him. Yeah, because they seem to have this backstory. He has this backstory with Bowdler and Bernard. They had this previous life, and every so often you get these little psychological touches, but then also you get something that's really bold, and it's just like this person has no interior life at all. I don't know who is Moll. I haven't detected really a character for Moll at all.
Things happen because the play requires it, not because the character would do that.
So if it is different hands, maybe the Moll scenes were somebody else, because there is that inconsistency. So there might be more than one hand in this. Anyway, Briony, final thoughts.
Yes. So in revision to my get the audience to choose the ending, you bluff them, double bluff it. They choose whichever ending they want, and then she gets to choose anyway. Have that audience. But no, I agree. Like I like the ending this way. To me, it felt very, and now for something completely different. I really do feel like it was deliberate. But that being said, I didn't enjoy the beginning of this play as much because the language was a lot denser, and I know there's an element of us getting into the language of a play over the course of the week and the read, but I do think
Have we lost Briony?
It looks like we've lost.
Genuinely was a lot denser. There was a lot of Latin, and oh no.
Oh yeah,
Am I
you're back. You're back.
Intermittent.
You were just talking about a lot of Latin.
Yes. So yeah, that's kind of the end, really. Yeah, it was very dense at the beginning, so that's where I think the work needs doing more than the end, for my taste.
A little bit rapey at the beginning too.
Yeah, I think that could just change it to robbery. Robbery is fine.
Oh, robbery's better.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay. Yeah, I do recall that first session just wasn't quite fun, whereas the second and this were genuinely bounced along quite nicely. Dan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, it's unfortunate I wasn't here for the first couple sessions because I feel like I really missed a lot on this one. I can only speak for this session, and thought it was so much fun. I didn't have any issues at all with the ending. I love the fact that I didn't know that it came out of nowhere, the randomness of it, and I didn't feel dissatisfied by it. Nor do I feel like I needed either. I mean, if Cripple is really commanding the stage every time he's on there, I'm not sure he necessarily needs to have the final word, although he could have. As is well known, epilogues, prologues, all paratexts don't generally necessarily make it to the print. It does make me wonder if, I know there's been question about whether there's missing parts to it. Maybe there are, but this was printed 3 times, and Heywood is kind of known for his for minding his printings.
If it's Heywood,
if it's Heywood, exactly. So it makes me wonder, was it Heywood? Because if it was Heywood and this was not his play, this was his play, would he have not possibly gone back to it? I don't know, because he tends to have a lot of prefaces as well, and insert his notes, his editorial notes about these types of things. I mean, who knows?
Maybe he took his name off it because of what they did to it in production.
Maybe. Who knows? So he's certainly not been shy about writing epistles, though. So any case, who knows? I liked it. I suggested Anthony Sher as Richard III to play Cripple. Very dynamic character. Oh yeah.
Been waiting for someone to do that all week.
God, I don't remember the last time I have done that. So anyway, Anthony Sher, he's quite a dynamic. He was quite a dynamic actor, and I can just picture him doing a role like this and owning really this character. So yeah, maybe I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, having broken the seal on that particular aspect, yes, I think that it demonstrates actually how dynamic and physical, because that character at the beginning is a fighter, and actually that particular performance does demonstrate how effective that could function. And now we will never speak of that again. And finally, Aliki, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I wasn't here for the first session, which I gather was less fun. I've just really enjoyed myself with this play of tropes, this meta romantic comedy, let's have fun thing that we've been having, and I really enjoyed it. I do feel that we need to do something about the character of the cripple, because we can't just have him as a romantic decoy in the way that they apparently could. But I think we've already had several really good suggestions as to what we could do about that to make a modern audience happy and honor his humanity, which is one of the few actual humanities of any character that the play has.
Interestingly enough, yeah.
Okay, I think we've been around the room once. Any additional thoughts before I close the session? It's quite a short one. It didn't take any time at all, did it? You know, it just flew by. It's because it's lots of long scene, a relatively few number of scenes. So I didn't stop as often, and that's where all the chat lives. You see, that's where all the chat lives. So unless anyone else waves and says anything else for me to pause, I will close the session. All that remains is to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.